Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Vacation Flirtation or More by Stacey Komosinski, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Chapter 1, Giuliana, Day 1. Group 5, boarding next. Giuliana Giovanni grinned and stood after hearing the announcement for the group number stamped on her airline ticket to the Turks and Caicos Island. Many people living in the northeast United States hated January with its cold and snowy winters, and Juliana was no different. However, there was something magical about the first few weeks of the new year. Every January, she would set goals for the coming year and look at her life with fresh ideas fluttering through her mind and excitement coursing through her as she wrote them in her journal. It also helped that in addition to a fresh start, the vacation she planned every year with her best friend, Morgan Kent, would commence. After making her way back to the back of the plane, Juliana glanced around at the other passengers, ready to trade in their fleece for swimsuits. She shed her own coat, exposing her bright pink top with large white flowers. There was something like bright colors and flowers to elevate her mood 100-fold. She stuffed her coat into the overhead compartment along with her carry-on bag and settled into her seat by the window. The ground crews ran around, vapor expelling from their mouths. She would soon be away from the freezing cold weather where boots and sweaters were necessary to survive into flip-flops and sarongs. Grateful that Morgan still wanted to celebrate their shared birthday with a winter getaway, Juliana grinned broadly. Even though Morgan had been living in Michigan since she'd left for college 14 years ago, they'd remained as close as they had been as kids. Once they each had jobs, the first thing they did was to scrimp and save so they could splurge on this one thing to continue the tradition of celebrating together. This was her 10th year making this solo trip from Connecticut, while Morgan flew from Michigan to meet her at their favorite resort. Please turn off all devices and fasten your seatbelts. Juliana typed a quick message to Morgan. Juliana, leaving JFK now. Morgan, I'm still sitting here waiting to see the updated departure time. Morgan, stupid snow. Juliana, at least your flight wasn't canceled. Juliana, I'll kill time waiting for you on the beach. Morgan, bitch. Juliana, LMAO, XO. Tucking her phone away and grabbing her book, Juliana released a long breath. Vacation, relaxation. Settling back into her window seat, she hunkered in for the 3-hour flight. 2 pages into her new book, her eyelids drooped. Ma'am? Juliana stirred and her eyelids fluttered open. Oh, yes, please. She accepted the snack bag from the flight attendant. Arching her back to stretch after her nap, she blinked several times to readjust her foggy vision. Excuse me, Juliana asked of the woman sitting next to her. Time to stretch her legs. A small jolt from turbulence made Juliana lose her balance as she slipped past the woman. She grabbed for the headrest of the closest seat across the aisle, but couldn't quite get a hold, and she landed with a thud on the lap of an older man. Heat flooded her face. Oh, I am so sorry. The man smirked at the mishap. Not a problem for me. Not every day a beautiful woman falls for me. Juliana's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She forced a laugh and scrambled to her feet. As his hand slid from her hips, her stomach turned and her face twisted in disgust. Ew. Righted on her feet, Juliana made eye contact with a blond man sitting in the row behind hers. He snickered, only increasing her embarrassment. She lowered her lashes and focused on the floor as she walked by the onlookers who had been witness to her clumsy accident. By the time Juliana returned to her seat, she was smiling at the blunder. Morgan will laugh her ass off when I tell her. You really made his day, a whisper came from behind her. Juliana turned and peered between the seats. The blond guy was leaning forward, his chin propped up by his hand. Yeah, I did, she groaned, her eyes rolling wildly in their sockets. I might have made his week. Definitely. He nodded a full smile, confirming his delight. Where are you headed? Girls' Week at the White Sands Paradise Resort. He raised his eyebrows. The resort hosts a girls' week? How did I not hear about this sooner? No, no, Juliana shook her head quickly and laughed. That's what my friend and I are calling it. It's a girls' trip for just the two of us. Gotcha. Where's your friend? I'll meet her there. She's coming from Michigan, Juliana explained. Nice. You? Where are you headed? She asked. Same place, actually. White Sands, he confirmed. Juliana cocked her head at the coincidence. Really? Yeah, I've heard it's the best place to stay in the Provincials. I'm disappointed to hear that Girls' Week isn't really a thing. It would have made this business trip more interesting. He winked, showing off his dazzling baby blues. Ha ha, Juliana sarcastically emphasized each ha and tipped her head left and right, then followed her fake laugh with a smirk. The woman next to Juliana huffed. Juliana waved her fingers at the blond man to signify the conclusion of their bantering and turned back around to settle in for the rest of the ride with her book. She managed to stay awake this time. Excuse me, and fully immerse herself into the mystery thriller she'd picked out as her vacation read. She was a few chapters in when the announcement was made. We're preparing to make our descent. Please return your tray tables and seat backs to their upright and locked positions. Juliana tucked her book in the pocket of the seat in front of her and turned her attention out the window. The dark ocean waters changed to a lighter blue and finally aqua as they approached the islands. This was just about the happiest moment of the year for Juliana. The sun shone bright through the windows, warming her arms, and she could almost taste the salt air. After landing, Juliana stepped down to the tarmac. She inhaled the warm, fresh air and raised her chin to the sky with her eyes closed. I live for this day every year. A shadow blocked the rays and cooled her arm. The blond man joined Juliana off to the side. First time here? Nope. She shook her head wistfully. Just never gets old. He looked around. It's nice here. Your first time? Juliana squinted in the bright sun. No, just stating a fact. With the heat warming her skin, she admitted, I love it here. It's my happy place. I feel completely zen here. He nodded. Enjoy your stay. Maybe I'll see you around the resort. Yeah, maybe. Juliana smiled and waved. See you. This sucks, Juliana complained with a long sigh. There was nothing sooner. No, unfortunately, the snow was enough to mess everything up today and tomorrow. I'll be there in 2 days on an early morning flight. All right, well, at least it's only one full day you'll miss. Morgan huffed on the other end of the call. I'm annoyed. I'd be going to happy hour with you right now if it wasn't for this snow. Juliana grabbed her room key fob and pulled the door closed behind her. Her sarong whirled at her calves as she turned. It is annoying. If it's any consolation, it won't be any fun without you, she admitted with a grimace. Sure, the warm air and the bright sun were nice, but without Morgan here, it wouldn't mean as much. She stepped onto the path toward the restaurant. It helps a bit, Morgan shared quietly. Trying to ease Morgan's frustration and her own, she offered, I bet Jeremy will be glad to have you home for 2 more nights. Her recent boyfriend turned fiance adored Morgan, bestowing her with not just a beautiful engagement ring, but also a romantic proposal. Morgan giggled. Yeah, he tried to hide it, knowing what this annual trip means to me, but I could tell he was thrilled to come pick me up earlier. That's sweet. Juliana released a blissful sigh, happy for her best friend to have found love. Enjoy your extra time at home. I'm going to grab a drink. Sounds perfect. I'll let you know when I'm on my way back to the airport with my arrival time. Cool. See you soon. Juliana clicked the red button and slipped her phone into her shoulder bag. It was going to suck not having Morgan here, but she'd make the best of her solo time in paradise. Juliana ordered a mojito from the bar and claimed a lounge chair beside the pool. The White Sands Paradise Resort boasted multiple pools of various depths, lush shrubs and trees alongside the walkways, with an open-air restaurant and bar. After adjusting her bikini top, she pulled out her book and flipped to where she left off on the plane. I may be able to read this whole book before Morgan arrives, with how quiet and relaxing it is here. As soon as Juliana crossed her legs at the ankles and sank into her chair, a shadow formed over her book. A familiar man's voice spoke. Hi. The blond man from the plane lingered next to her chair. Hi. Giuliana smiled at him, her eyes roaming over his face from behind the security of her dark sunglasses. He was cute for a white-collar type. She had a tendency to date men with more of an edge. Her last boyfriend, Wayne, had dark, shaggy hair that dusted his shoulders, and he worked construction. This man was opposite Dwayne in every way, with his tailored blue shirt and clean hands. May I sit down? He tipped his head toward the empty chair beside her. Sure, have a seat, she invited with a sweep of her hand, not sure exactly what she was extending an invitation toward. He sat at the bottom of the lounge chair facing her. I never caught your name this morning. I'm Landon. Ah, name exchanges. Add formal to the list, describing Landon. Giuliana rolled off her tongue with her faded Italian accent. She rarely used the accent, but enjoyed the sound of her name when she did. Landon nodded with his eyes focused on her. Where's your friend? Stuck in Michigan because of the snow. She'll make it here the day after tomorrow. Giuliana was bummed about it, but was determined to make it the best of her time away from work in the cold. That's not too bad. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. In the mood for a little vacation flirtation, Giuliana cocked an eyebrow and tipped her chin up at his empty hands. So where's your swimsuit and drink? That's next. I saw you here, so I detoured this way to say hi and actually introduce myself, he said, full grin exposing his perfect straight white teeth. Ah, Giuliana looked around at their lush surroundings. So what do you think of the resort so far? Have you been down to the beach yet? Nope. Had a quick meeting. A breeze ruffled the hair on top of his head. Business already? Fitting in a meeting after being on the island for only a few hours confirmed that his white collar status and business trip purpose. That's why I'm here. But no reason I can't relax when I'm not in meetings. The beach is next. Another flash of his white teeth had Giuliana intrigued in the stranger who would have business at a resort, but be relaxed enough to flirt with her. He is flirting with me, right? Nice. She bobbed her head with approval. Would you come along? The rise of his one eyebrow had Giuliana thinking he was flirting. Giuliana took a moment to contemplate what his intentions could be and what she was willing to give of her time to the stranger. In 10 years, she and Morgan had been coming here. They kept the pact that they made their first year not to get involved with men here. This was a girls' trip, but Morgan wasn't here yet, and Landon was easy to look at. She swallowed all reservations and conceded. Sounds good. Landon stood and smoothed his shirt over his flat front khakis. Be right back. After Landon walked away, Giuliana stared at the pool. She didn't want to read too deeply into his invitation for a walk on the beach. Relaxation and fun were her priority this week, and a walk would fit into both categories. She shrugged, giddiness replacing her hesitation. A little flirting wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. One walk on the beach with a handsome stranger, and then a quiet solo dinner on the balcony of her room with a book would be the perfect first day in paradise. Landon came around the corner, striding toward her chair, his long legs exposed underneath the navy shorts. That was fast. A chuckle escaped her lips at his efficiency. My room is right over there, he gestured with his left hand. Ah. Giuliana stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder and holding out her drink. We need to get you one of these. You're right. He held out his hand for her to lead the way. They walked up to the outdoor bar. He leaned a hand on the smooth teak surface. One dark and stormy, and for the lady, he turned to Giuliana. Another mojito, please, she requested. The bartender nodded and turned to the glass shelves lined with liquor. Coming right up, Mr. Parker. Giuliana drained the rest of her glass, eyeing Landon above the rim. He was already known at the resort by his name and shown respect and formality. Very interesting. His long fingers tapped the bar. My meeting earlier was here. Unable to contain her growing curiosity, she ventured. I see. So, what was your business? I'm talking to the management of the resort. His eyes danced at the vague answer he supplied. About? She pressed for more. Patience wasn't something Giuliana was known for having a lot of, but curiosity was. Landon grinned. Not sure yet. Secretive. The cogs turned in her head. Prospective buyer, developer? His clothes and demeanor made her speculate that he came for money. He shrugged a shoulder, letting it drop. It's not as intriguing as it may seem. Giuliana nodded and traded her empty glass for the full mojito the bartender offered her. Still curious about the man who was speaking to the management at her favorite resort, she asked, "So what do you do back home?" "I'm a lawyer in Manhattan. You?" He met her eyes after a sip from his drink. "I'm a CFO for a small manufacturing company in Norwalk, Connecticut." Juliana smiled proudly at sharing her profession. She loved numbers. Numbers were the only thing she had patience for. "Nice. You grew up in Connecticut?" Landon followed Juliana toward the beach. "I was born in Italy, but grew up in a rural part of northern Connecticut, almost in Massachusetts. You, originally from New York?" Landon strolled next to Juliana on the wooden plank walkway that led away from the pool area toward the beach. "Yes, I grew up in Brooklyn. My mom is still there, but my dad is closer to me in Manhattan. Divorced." "Oh, sorry. Recently?" He shook his head. "No, it's been a number of years. Each of them is remarried. Large blended families on both sides now with lots of siblings." "How many is a lot?" "I have a sister, 3 stepsisters, and 2 stepbrothers. It makes holidays interesting, to say the least." "I bet," Juliana agreed with wide eyes. "I have one sister, Bianca." Landon smiled before looking out at the shoreline. "It's beautiful here. I can see why you love it so much." They gazed out in unison at the view. The white sand ended where their waves peacefully rolled in. Ditching their sandals and flip-flops to feel the sand between their toes, they stepped onto the beach. "I really do. I always leave here feeling completely and utterly relaxed," Juliana confirmed. "I bet." He looked over at her. Juliana met his gaze, driving her stomach into a flip-flop. His eyes matched the bright blue of the water. "Which way should we walk?" He tipped his head back and forth, keeping his eyes on her. Recovering from the sizzle of electricity zapping between them, Juliana pointed. "Let's go this way. There's a nice inlet around the bend." She and Morgan had found it their first year visiting the island. "Cool." They strolled in silence for a few moments, ankle deep in the water as it slapped the shore. "So what do you and Morgan do while you're here? Relax by the pool and hang on the beach?" Her face snapped up from the surf. "Hell no, we're very active. We do all the activities here at the resort, snorkeling and kayaking. We rent jet skis for a day and also do parasailing. Last year was the first year we chartered a boat and we were annoyed we waited so long to do it. They took us around the islands and did water sports on the way. It was amazing." "Wow, how do you leave the island so relaxed if you're constantly doing something?" He glanced her way again. Juliana caught the twitch of his lip, bringing her attention to them in his angular chin. "You relax in between." He nodded as they rounded the bend. "Wow." Landon stopped. Joining him, Juliana took in the view, finding it just as she remembered. The large rocks by the water resembled layers of a cake. They were varying shades of white and gray and were smooth from the years of the high tide and water lapping against them.